Hello, and welcome to episode 254 of Super Switch Headz, the premier podcast in all of the internet. My name is Jordan Willis.
My name is Patrick Nicely.
My name is Summer Rain.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, it's the four of us on this Nintendo podcast.
We did it.
We're moving up in the world.
Today we're going to be talking about the Mario RPG franchise and history. It's not as clear-cut as 1, 2, 3. It is a very winding path, but we're here to guide you through and just talk about all the different iterations of Mario RPGs that have existed through time. Before we get into that, we've got a lot of news this week. There's some new SNES games on NSO. Shadow got cast for the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 feature film. The Baldur's Gate 3 train just keeps rolling.
Chugga.
Fallout came out, a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we get all to that, how is everyone doing this week?
Good. I'm excited to talk about Mario RPGs coming up. I'm excited for Thousand Year Door coming up. Hopefully, this will give everybody a nice refresher before that game comes out. I'm excited. But yeah, I haven't been playing a ton of games this week. I've been mostly just like reading books and watching movies. I did recently. I found an open matte cut of Blade Runner 2049. Have you guys ever watched any like open matte versions of movies before? It's like,
what does that mean?
So it's kind of like in a movie theater, like when they show something, especially when it's in like the wider cinema scope. Movies aren't actually shot that way. They're shot with like a full matte, and oftentimes, especially back in the film days, when they would be sent to theaters, the theaters themselves would crop off the top and bottoms. So people like do scans, like open matte scans of movies. So you see all this extra shit on the top and bottom you're not supposed to see. So a lot of times that includes like boom mics and light stands and stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. But this version of Blade Runner 2049 is not like really open matte. It was like the version that was sent out to IMAX theaters. So it's like, it's wider, but it's also like what was intended to be seen. So it's like this beautiful version of the movie that I'd never seen before. That I've found on BitTorrent and I've been downloading. And yeah, I watched it the other night, and it's a great way to watch the movie. I just fell in love with that movie all over again. But yeah, that's been me. I have had a pretty good week this week.
So this past weekend, my brother shot a short film that he wrote and directed, and I went down to help him take some BTS photos and potential poster cover photos. Yeah, we had a good time. The set was really chill, very small, very low key, and that's kind of how I prefer it, having worked on a handful of sets. I wouldn't say a ton, but I'm, more knowledgeable than probably the average person. So it's been really cool to see that and get some really cool photos. I just dropped off the film today. I do all film photography, so who knows what I got, but I shot 3 full rolls, so I got something. Yeah, other than that, just working. The show I work on is about to be done for the season. So after that, I'm the big question mark of what I'm going to do. If I'm just going to chill, try to find another thing. I don't know. All's well over here for now. How about y'all?
I'm still getting acclimated, still moving in. I feel like it's an end, like just a never ending. There's another box that you find and pull things out of. But this weekend, I did do some exploring with my sister. She messaged me and asked me if I would want to go to a friend's art gallery experience with her in this cool art district called Ravenswood. And so we went to that, and it's a friend of hers that she knows through. They've done a bunch of game dev projects together, just like more artsy things. And her entire gallery, this experience was like the combination of her own, like her fiber arts. So she's like finishing her residency in this studio, and like was working there full time teaching classes. And there were all these different experiences of like there was a game controller that was like a pillow effectively, but she completely did all the programming and wiring herself, and it went into the screen that was up here that still had all of this sewn pieces on it, but you would choose which experience that you wanted. All these like mini games. I think it was created in it was created in Bitly was what the program she said it was called. Bunch of little experiences like that. Very cool. And then we just walked around this district and had lunch and doing a lot of walking, being in the sun. It's nice.
I have been sick. I think last week I said that my son was sick. Well, then I got it. And so last week it wasn't terrible, but I was not, it was a little bit of a downer, or just, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I did much. And
you're gonna start wearing masks in the house, Patrick.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a pretty regular occurrence.
I mean, it is. You have a kid, they go to school, they are germ factories, they bring it back. Most of the time you don't get it, but you can't win them all. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of a low key weekend for me of just like sleeping a lot, doing nothing. I don't think that I have anything else really to report. Which
I'll send you a copy of the open mat cut of. You could talk about that next week.
Which leads us into shout outs, because last week, well, we did an episode on exclusivity, but I definitely wanted to mention Jay, the huge 27 over on the Discord, was hyped for emulators coming to the App Store, which is something we reported on last week. Over on YouTube, we talked about exclusivity, right? And about Nintendo being the last bastion of exclusivity. And we got a really great, thoughtful comment from David Lane 1248. Definitely want to shout this out. And they said Nintendo is the last bastion of exclusive for two reasons. And it was a really nice long comment. I won't go into it, but just the fact that Nintendo exclusives are 100% exclusive, unlike, as some of the other console makers are now moving their games to PC and stuff. But also something that we didn't hit on that I thought was a nice point, and that's that the Switch is a console that, for better or for worse, still feels like a console rather than like a PC. Like, some of the new, which is kind of something we talked about a little bit as competition and making better and better hardware. It kind of, at some point, you're just making a big PC, right?
Always online machines, Yeah.
But I think that's true. And I think that, as David said on this comment, that doesn't seem like a big distinction, but it really does kind of provide that sort of exclusivity console vibe that's kind of almost nostalgic, like they said, for like, it makes them more special and more. And I think the handheld bit plays a bit into that too. That's me adding that. But I thought that was a really nice comment. So thanks to David Lane 1248 for that. If you too want to be shouted out, make a comment on the YouTube, come join the Discord and make a comment there, leave a note, send us a DM anywhere online, and we'll try to shout you out. We always appreciate hearing from our listeners and viewers, because we have a YouTube channel, and you can go over and hit like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and that would be helpful. And also, we have a Patreon now, so thanks to all our patrons over on Patreon. And if you want to check that out, definitely go look up Super Switch Headz over on Patreon. And with that, we've got news and rumors for y'all. First up, NSO has got some new Super Nintendo games, the SNES app, the SNES app on NSO. What's interesting about this one is a couple of previously Japan-only games, right? Wrecking Crew 98. I think my favorite comment on the YouTube was, I didn't know there was another Wrecking Crew game, much less 96 of them or whatever. I love it when people make that joke. I don't know why that one always works for me.
That makes one of us.
Another Japan-only game, not sure I'm going to say this right, Amazing
Hebereke, maybe?
Hebereke. Yeah, that's correct.
And Super R-Type. So again, the first two of those have not come out in the US ever, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, I haven't actually played Wrecking Crew 98. I don't think I've ever played a Wrecking Crew game in general. I don't know. It doesn't seem that interesting, but this one looks like it has match 3 color stuff in it, which is making me more interested in it. So maybe I'll check it out because I'm a slut for puzzles. But the Hebereke games are actually really interesting. There was a new release that just came out on the Switch that is a remake of the original game, which is also known as Euphoria, the Saga, is how it was released in the States. So it's kind of a long-running franchise in Japan, and the US has had like a couple releases here and there. So I imagine this release is kind of tying into the fact that Sunsoft has like put out this new Euphoria game, which I have been eyeing for a while. I think it looks delightful and beautiful. Like the graphic style is really great on both the original NES game and the remake. So I'll definitely be playing the Super Nintendo version. I just haven't yet, but I will, I promise.
Well, then we'll move on to the fact that it was announced that Nintendo is not going to be attending Gamescom this year. So Gamescom is the big in-person event in Germany in the summer. It's in August. And Nintendo has gone to it in the past and had a booth or floor or whatever you want to call it. But not 2024. And I think there's maybe two things we could guess as to why, right? One might be that they just aren't, they increasingly want to do their own things, which, with having more Nintendo Live events or, more the whole direct thing. But also, Nintendo doesn't have a lot to show, maybe, right? In August. Yeah. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think it's more one or the other or something else?
I think it is more the latter. They just don't really have much to show. We haven't seen much. And if the rumors are true that the Super Switch is getting pushed to 2025, I think that kind of ruined any plans of them being able to show anything off.
I just feel like it's never stopped them in the past, that even though they've gone and showcased at events and had floor space at other events where they weren't showing off new games. I remember going to PAX South in 2018 or 2019, and the only game that they had for demoing was Mario Kart. And that's at that point was a how many years old game. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that just the fact that they're not having a presence is almost weirder. Even if they don't have new things to show off, they still show off.
Yeah, I think they're just putting all their eggs into R&D basket right now. I think they're just in prep mode. They were just at PAX West? Was it
East
the other day, or PAX East recently? So, I mean, they were just at a thing, but they definitely like having stuff at Gamescom. It's like the biggest gaming event in Europe, and they need some kind of representation there. But it is weird. I mean, I'm still kind of freaked out by how quiet Nintendo is this year.
Yeah.
It's going to make fucking filling out the show pretty tough for the rest of the year. God, just give me a morsel of something, Ninty. Like, I need something.
This was supposed to be our year. The Super Switch year.
Yeah.
We'll move on with more Nintendo news here. And that is that Gio Corsi is joined Nintendo of America. The announcement made over on Twitter, they made saying, this week I began my new gig filled with fun and adventure. I've joined Nintendo of America AAA third-party portfolio management crew to help great teams bring their amazing games to this legendary platform. They're formerly of PlayStation. I think worked there for a long time, right? High up in PlayStation. So what do y'all think this means? Does this mean anything? Is it just another, hire over there? They obviously already had this team. Or do you think this is like a Git or somebody that's going to have connections with third parties and stuff?
We're getting Mother 3 localized, just like he did for Yakuza. It's just going to, and then we're going to get we're going to get Mother 4. And
yeah, the AAA third-party game Mother 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do think that this is good news, and it's if all the rumors are to be believed, then Nintendo's next console will be much more on par with modern systems, which means they're going to need a rep who's going to be bringing AAA or otherwise multi-plat games day and date to the console, right? So that means getting in touch with developers. That means getting in touch with the publishers, making sure they have dev kits, making sure they have more than enough time to work on these ports before the games come out on the other platforms. So we're not getting a Hogwarts Legacy 9 months after the other consoles, with a lot of issues, right? So I think that's probably what he's here for. So I think this is a good thing overall. And that's why Nintendo fans are excited. Just more speculation about next gen.
All right. Well, we're going to move away from Nintendo for just a second, heading into the sort of negative layoff news here. And this one's kind of a little weirder than your average just closure or layoff. Basically, the news is that Possibility Space, which is a studio, I don't think they actually ever made a game. I think they're a pretty recent studio. I could be wrong about that. And I say made, I know they were working for years on one, but has been shut down. And what's a little unusual about this is the way it happened and the sort of news around all of this. So I don't know that we specifically mentioned this weeks ago when Crop Circles Games, which is another studio that was shut down. Well, they're under the same umbrella. I don't know how you say this very well, but Britannia Media, which is like a publisher, I think that owned both of those companies and maybe some other studios, has shut down Possibility Space in a kind of bizarre email that was leaked out to the press about why, or at least on its face, why, right? That somebody was doing like an investigative journalism into the shutdown of Crop Circle Games and had some information about Possibility Space, reached out to the CEO there, and they like shut down the studio is kind of what it makes it sound like, and blames the employees for leaking this somewhat, right?
I mean, this is such obvious, clear bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is just taking the blame off of yourself and putting it on to whoever else. So A, you don't have any liability and you can shut things down quicker and say it was a breach of contract. And then B, maybe that's just it. Actually, it's like what it is.
Yeah.
It's just bullshit. It's just like passing the buck off so you don't have to like deal with it. But everybody sees through this. It's really sad to see. This is a really cool studio too. It's based in New Orleans. They hired a lot of like people of color and people in marginalized groups, is what they were all about at the studio. So it really sucks to see this happen and to see the blame passed off to employees for quote unquote leaking stuff. But, obviously this was happening before anybody was talking to the press, right? So the timelines just don't match up. It's really sad to see. And I hope all these people can land on their feet.
Yeah. And I don't know if I made this clear, but it's also like a sudden thing. I don't think nobody had like warning. It was like they closed the studio, which is also bullshit, like you said.
It's kind of wild to me that you would write an email blaming press leaks from your internal staff, knowing that this email is going to be leaked to the press if you think that in that way. So it's just a bad look. I was reading the email, I'm like, this is just fuck you. I don't know.
Yeah, he ends his email with, "As of today, I am stepping away from the games industry to focus on my family and care for Annie. I wish all of you the best as you navigate this complex industry and the challenges and opportunities ahead. Jeff."
It's like, I still have my money. Bye.
Yep. Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
Awful.
Jeff Strain. Let's name him.
Yeah. There you go. Next up is that apparently Discord has been taking down Nintendo Switch emulator, the accounts of the people who made these emulators and their entire servers. So obviously, we know the Yuzu server was shut down as part of the agreement with Nintendo when they settled that lawsuit about these Nintendo Switch emulation. But now other, forks of Yuzu that had their own Discord servers, Discord has shut those down, in response to presumably a DMCA, request from Nintendo. And not only that, but like completely just getting rid of accounts of people that were involved in those. So it seems pretty drastic. I don't know, the ins and outs of this. And apparently I think The Verge is maybe the one who kind of was first reporting on this. And I don't think they ever got an official statement from Discord, as far as I know. But
is it a slippery slope?
Yeah. This is bad to just be nuking servers and banning people without any warning, right? So I think they shouldn't do this, obviously. And it sucks because this is like a Discord decision. So appealing it probably isn't going to do anything, right? But clearly Discord is spooked by the Nintendo ninjas snooping around on their shit and being hotbeds for illegal activity. They don't like that look, based on all the recent articles written. So I think they're covering their bases. I think they're definitely taking it too far. I think Nintendo was out to make an example, not like nuke every Discord that has emulation in it. So I think they're going a little bit further than they need to right now.
Unless there were conversations behind closed doors that we didn't know about.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there's a comment in the Verge article about this, which says, perhaps Discord saw evidence of software piracy or something in these Discords. That's just purely speculation. Who knows? I don't know that that's even what they're saying, right? So, and also this article mentions that Nintendo's targeting people who are making related tools that aren't necessarily even like Switch emulators, but they've sent takedown requests to GitHub for, I don't really know what these things do, but a SIG patch updater and lockpick, RCM, other things, which I think help people get these keys to hack their Switch or to run emulation. I'm not really sure which part, but so they're pretty aggressive right now, right? That's and I'm, I think, like you said, maybe it just they Discord and GitHub and wherever else, they're just going to comply because it's not, I don't see why they would want to fight that bear. You know what I mean? Or like stand up for things that are this gray area or whatever too. So
we're at the end of the Switch's life. I find it a little odd that it's like now that they're really going after all this stuff when a lot of this stuff has been going on for a while. Maybe it just took them this long to really build a case, right, against a lot of these emulators. And so they're finally going forward with it. Maybe that's why they're delaying the Super Switch, is so they just have enough time to litigate people while the Switch is still out. I don't know. That'd be pretty evil. But
they've shut down all software development, all hardware development.
Yeah.
All legal.
Solely focusing on their legal department right now. But I don't know. I think this is shitty, and I want Nintendo to stop doing this. However, that said, they're still within their right. I don't think it's like against better judgment to go after people that are trying to steal your stuff. Now, if they go after people hacking their Wii U's and 3DS's at this point, or go after Pretendo Network, then I'm going to have a fucking problem. Yep. You know what I mean? Because they just shut all this shit down. There's no way they're bricks now, essentially, in a lot of ways, especially if we're trying to do anything online. So if they start going after fan servers and stuff like this, then we're going to have a fucking problem, right? But until then, this has got me concerned, but not totally, beside myself with anger.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the BAFTA Awards. We often make a big deal about the Game Awards, but there are several other video game awards things that happen, including these. This is, what is it? The British Academy of Film and Television or something. I don't know what BAFTA stands for exactly. Something like that, right?
That. Yeah.
Whatever.
It's the British, and they've for quite some time they've been doing game awards as well as part of it, as well as the film and TV awards. And so we're going to focus on that. So that just happened this last week. Of note, I suppose, is that Baldur's Gate 3 won the game, whatever they call Game of the Year at the BAFTAs, which makes Baldur's Gate 3 the first game to have won every major Game of the Year award, according to people who know these things. And that
maybe not the Golden Head Award, but
they didn't win. That's true. They didn't pull off the quintuple.
It was my Game of the Year, and I'm part of this. Hello. Okay, true. Just fucking forget I'm here.
Hey. The collective.
Switch Headz in totality, Summer is not.
They only got 1/3 of that one, or 1/4 of that one. Yeah. Anyway, the point being that they won, the Game Awards, the DICE Awards, Game Developer Choice Awards, yada yada, all these major awards, including that. So that's big. That's crazy. Of note for Nintendo, Super Mario Bros. Wonder won a couple in family and multiplayer, and Tears of the Kingdom won technical achievement. I didn't watch this, or I'm not something I've regularly follow or anything like that. But another, like, if you're tired of the Game Awards, here's another alternative, right? Did anybody check this out or dig any deeper into this?
I did not. I just kind of read about it, and I think I really like that they have one called, the Evolving Game Award, which I thought was a nice way to put it. That's what Cyberpunk 2077 won.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like best update.
Yeah, which I think is just like a nice way to put it, because there are certain games that are like, No Man's Sky would be another game that could win best evolving game.
Yeah.
Not just games where you do evolution, like Pokemon or
Spore,
or Digimon or Spore.
I do like that, because I do think that type of thing deserves recognition, right? Developers that are just continuously working on their game. I think that does deserve recognition. So I like that as well. Yeah, no, I care about BAFTA now because, Baldur's Gate. That's why it's the only reason I had ever heard of it.
There we go. While we're talking about kind of TV and stuff like that too, the Fallout TV show came out this past week. I know, David, you got to see an early screening of that, or was it early, or was it just?
Yeah, it was on this past Monday. I got to see the first 2 episodes at it was like a press and early advanced screening for fans thing. We were able to get some tickets through my work. We got some advanced tickets. So got to see the first 2 episodes in the Bob Bullock IMAX theater, which honestly was overkill. I walked away from that being like, oh, this is like kind of good, I guess, but the pacing was sort of weird and the music was really loud. And then I like watched episode 3 at home and I liked it way more. I was like, oh, okay, I think this just wasn't intended for a giant IMAX screen, like, but it's a good show. I do enjoy it quite a bit. Have you guys had a chance to check this out at all?
Not yet.
It's on my long list of media to consume at this point, but
Yeah.
I am excited because I did like Fallout 3 in New Vegas quite a bit. So if it matches the tone, I'm in. And so far I've heard it's from friends and the Discord. It's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's got a little bit of an identity crisis if I'm going to be nitpicky about it. I think the tone is like, I kind of wish it went almost a little goofier with it. I think it kind of flip-flops a little bit too much into serious when it is campy and should just own that, but that said, it is very funny and knows that it's funny. And as far as a video game adaptation goes that feels like a video game, this has got to be one of the best ones ever. Like it really feels like like Fallout 5 if they just made it a TV show instead of a game. It is a sequel and it's like its own thing, not adapting any other story. It's just set in the world, right? Which is really cool. And they do shit like someone will get like stabbed in the side and like almost disemboweled and be like at death's door, and then they like take a med pack and they're just like immediately fine again, so it does a lot of like little video game-isms like that throughout it. And it's got side quests, and there's even one part where he's like, the golden rule of the wasteland is you're always going to get distracted by whatever bullshit is in front of you. And it's like, yep, that's Fallout. It really sounds like that. Yeah. So it's a cool show. I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad that it's getting a lot of success. But man, can we stop the binge model, please, on shows like this? They dropped all 8 episodes at once on this. And I, again, just worry that it's been out for less than a week and people are already starting to not talk about it as much, where otherwise you'd have maybe 8 weeks of people talking about these episodes and going over all the details of all the little stuff that they put into the incredible set design and on location stuff that they really did put into this show. And I just feel like it's washing over people. So, I mean, I know I work for Netflix and my show is binge as well, but I hate that. And I wish we did weekly releases too. So anyway.
As someone who is just, I guess, on the other side, I was just a consumer. I absolutely hate, because first of all, I hate the word binge, and as soon as that got taken over by the way that we, interact with media, like that is just, it's not a good word. Right? True. It's not. It's never been a good word. It's always been associated. Right? It's not a healthy, and it's not a healthy thing. It's not healthy to binge a show. Like your brain doesn't process it the same way. So it's just. But if it's all there, that's how people are gonna process it, or they're not going to process it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we need to bring back the night of must see TV. Like HBO still pretty much owns Sunday nights. Like nothing is really going on there right now. I mean, I guess they just finished Curb Your Enthusiasm or whatever. It's like that night where it's like, fucking Game of Thrones and to Silicon Valley and to Last Week Tonight. It's just like people just need to start dropping episodes at like 8 p.m. or whatever. It's just, I don't get why they do it like this, but anyway, whatever.
Yeah. And then we'll move on to our last bit of news. And this happened right before we started recording. Keanu Reeves has just been cast as Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic 3 movie. I know we were already kind of talking about this over on the Discord, and Jordan, you were pretty happy with this. Is that right?
Great choice. I love it.
Wait, Patrick, you have to say the line. Did you say
I didn't say that one.
Any Shadow the Hedgehog's here?
That didn't feel natural to me. I tried to nail the rest of it close to what he said.
Shadow the Hedgeheads.
That's what it said in the Discord.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, that's a Discord inside joke. So what were you saying, Jordan? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Just a great casting choice. I'm here for the Keanu renaissance that we're all living through. We watched all the John Wick movies, watched all the Matrix movies. I'm just glad that he's having his moment in the sun, and also just a good cast. I think I'm guessing Knuckles probably will come back for this, so now you got Jim Carrey, Idris Elba, and Keanu Reeves in a movie together, and Ben Schwartz. Of course.
And
I'm
Ben
sorry.
Schwartz.
I do not know who does Tails. I don't remember.
It's the original voice actress who
Are you
plays
serious?
Tails in the games in the show. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That never happens.
I just
Charles
have-
Martinet.
I have to. My brain is stuck on this now, though. That you said like his moment in the sun. He's Shadow.
Mm.
Okay.
I
Well
also
played.
was like, did he ever have a moment? Not. I feel like Keanu Reeves just been big since like 1999, but I don't know. Like, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I think there's a while where people are like, he's such a bad actor, and
Yeah.
he kind of is. But it's like, but in a way that's like entertaining. You know, like I feel like Tom Cruise is not a very good actor, but he's like good at being Tom Cruise.
That's. I feel like that's
you know
just
what I mean?
most like Hollywood actors, though. Like it's just they
Yeah.
became popular, and so now we like them.
Maybe, yeah. Either way, I agree. I think this is inspired casting. It's great stuff. I can't wait to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I don't even like these movies that much, but
Yeah,
I get
me
so
neither.
excited for them. like I will be there day one in my Sonic costume. I can't fucking wait.
Nice. Well, that does it then for our news segment. And we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking all about the different Mario RPG games Nintendo has made. We are back, and this week we are talking all about the Mario RPG games. And that's a couple of different franchises because it's changed over time, and we're going to get into that. There was obviously the Square, the original Super Mario RPG game, then the Paper Mario series, and the Mario and Luigi series of games, as well as maybe some other ones that could be argued to be under this umbrella of Mario RPGs. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff. So yeah, how it's changed over time. It's kind of a multifaceted thing, right? As Jordan alluded to earlier.
You mean there's not a chronological order to play them in? you mean that's not what we're talking about today?
Yeah, this isn't the recommended play order episode.
Nor is it a
rankings.
ranking episode.
It's not
Yeah.
even a rankings episode. We might do that sometime. But this is more just an series overview. And series is a tough word, I feel like, too. But anyway, I will just lead with that. I personally have not played a lot of these games. I bounced off Super Mario RPG on the remake pretty quickly. I have enjoyed a couple of Paper Mario games. And I've dipped my toe into the Mario and Luigi game on NSO. I think that's Superstar Saga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And played a good bit of that, but not beaten it. So I'm interested in hearing y'all talk about this as much as talking about it. So that's me. What about what about everybody
done.
here?
You're not done. Which Paper Mario games have you played?
So I got into it through the Origami King, and the
Yeah.
Switch era was really my, like, I was really gonna, obviously we do the podcast, so that helps. And that's part of the reason I do this podcast is I was like, I'm gonna play all these franchises I just never played. So the Origami King was the first one, and then when went and played Paper Mario, the original Paper Mario on NSO. And then for our 3DS, because my kid loved the Origami King, I got him Sticker Star. But it's really hard to play a 3DS game together. He played it for a while. I kind of looked over his shoulder sometimes, but like it wasn't quite the same experience. So we dropped off that one. But we have it, and I've experienced it a little bit. So
It's also just a hard game to play in general.
Yeah.
That game sucks.
okay, good to know.
Anyway, whatever.
That's
you
helpful.
said Sticker
actually.
Star, right?
Yeah, the 3DS one. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's of the 3DS ones, it's the better one.
Of the-
Color Splash.
Oh, that was the
Color Splash is Wii U.
My God,
They're both kind of trash.
Yeah.
See,
okay.
that's why we're having this episode to kind of sort through it, because it is messy, dude.
Yeah.
As I was building the notes for this, I'm like, this is really convoluted if you're just trying to play a Mario RPG and figure out which one to play. It's a difficult thing to navigate, but I have played most of these games, which I was really stoked and wanted to do an episode like this. My two biggest blind spots were Super Mario RPG and The 1,000-Year Door. So I have now played
Crazy.
Super Mario RPG, and I have opinions on that. And then I will be playing Thousand Year Door. I think that one really missed me because it just got really expensive as a GameCube exclusive, and I could have emulated it, but it's something I really wanted to play on a TV screen. So I kind of just, now that they're doing the remake, once they announced it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'll just wait till this comes out. The only other one I haven't really played is Color Splash for the Wii U. I did not own a Wii U. I was low key hoping this might get ported over at some point, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. And then the other one, I'm actually bidding on this on eBay right now, is Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. I did not play that one, mostly because Sticker Star left like such a bad taste in my mouth. I was really skeptical, but I think it was Cool Uncle Vince has convinced me to play this game.
Also, the name of that game is really confusing. It's like they really wanted to confuse people. Is this a Mario and Luigi RPG, or is this a Paper Mario game with the name Paper Jam? Like, is it? Does
it's
it?
Both.
I guess
is
that
it?
was the
Is it? I was
point.
wondering.
Yes.
It's a crossover.
Yeah.
It's a crossover. Okay.
Well,
We'll get to that maybe.
Again, a very confusing series of games to try to figure out. But.
a little easier to follow than like Kingdom Hearts, but yeah, I don't have a huge history with the series either. I think out of all the games on this list, and this list is a pretty myriad, there's like a lot of games on here. I think the only game I've actually finished is the Origami King.
God.
I've started a good. Well, I'm not a big game finisher, guys. I mean, I think you guys know this about me.
And these are also RPGs. Like,
They're RPGs,
right?
which are really hard.
And
for me to
Origami
finish.
King was basically a puzzle game, so it tracks that you finished it.
Yeah, in a way, the battles certainly felt like that, and
Yeah.
I think that which I really liked Origami King, but I've started a bunch of these a bunch of times. Paper Mario, I've started a bunch of times, never gotten super far. Super Mario RPG, the farthest I've gotten was in the re-release, and I still haven't gone back and actually finished that yet. I never played any of the Mario and Luigi games. That's a huge blind spot for me. Yeah. But some of the ones that I won't necessarily spoil that we're coming to later, some of the other ones that are like kind of like tertiary RPGs I have played, and those I'm big fans of, but we'll save that for a little bit. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to talk about this.
Summer?
I played most of these games. My first game in this realm was the Thousand Year Door. And for folks who are maybe listening and are excited about this just because they're excited about all of these games in general, may understand my feelings of it's kind of hard to play a lot of the other games. And we might get into why some of the other Paper Marios are different and all of that history. But if the Thousand Year Door is your first one, it's harder to play a lot of the other games because you expected them to be more like that. And then you never got that high again. Not saying that the other games are bad, because they're not. A lot of them are still good. They're just different. And I have played, let's see. So Super Mario RPG was probably my bigger blind spot. I was just holding on to hoping it was going to come, like be re-released. Fell off of it. And I played most of the Mario and Luigi games. The only one I also haven't played is Paper Jam. So I guess I need to go to eBay. No, I need to hack my 3DS is what I need to do.
Just pirate it.
Yeah. I love the Mario and Luigi games, especially the Game Boy Advance and the DS ones, like especially Bowser's Inside Story. It's just silly fun. Yeah.
That game rocks, dude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like Luigi getting to have more, like, and like the brother shenanigans though, like that, those are the only games that really gave us like, this is their relationship as brothers.
Yeah. So I don't know how y'all want to approach this. You want to just go game by game and just kind of talk a little bit about it? Yeah.
This is the order to play them in.
Yeah, or at least franchise by franchise. Maybe we can start like with the kind of the start of it all with the
OG.
Yeah, the Squaresoft developed Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yeah, so this game is like pretty interesting. It's actually the last Mario game on the SNES to come out, and one of the last games Square released for Nintendo consoles until the GBA GameCube era. They completely skipped, notoriously, the N64 era, only making games for PlayStation. So it's, came out. It kind of kickstarted this whole thing, kind of a cross genre. But my takeaway is it's kind of like baby's first RPG. Like, it is a very simplified version of an RPG, but the story is pretty good. It's widely regarded nostalgically. For me, playing it with not rose tinted glasses, I had mixed reactions, but I did play it all the way through and completed it. But it kicked off the whole franchise. So, you got to give it props for just being the first Mario RPG in general, just to even set the tone.
Yeah, and not only did it set the tone, it also set like the main mechanics, the active timed based battle system is carried through and like all the Paper Mario games. And I think also in the Mario and Luigi games as well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so, that's really cool. And then there was a point where this stopped being the case, but this was also kind of the start of new and interesting characters within the Mario canon that they would introduce that weren't just like Toads and Goombas or whatever. It was a lot of like really interesting side creatures and stuff. We'll get to it in a second. Maybe we just talk about it right now. But there was definitely a point in Paper Mario specifically's lifespan where there was some internal memo at Nintendo that was basically like, no more new weird characters, just use the characters that we have. And it was like just kind of Koopas and Goombas and Toads for a while, right? People are really excited that Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is coming back out because that was a game that had a ton of these new, unique, original characters. And hopefully that means the future of Mario RPGs is filled with a lot more of the stuff that we saw here early in the life of Mario RPGs with, Legend of the Seven Stars and stuff like that. So,
and even within the like Goombas and Koopas and stuff like that you're talking about, there were more interesting variants, right? Like it wasn't just also new creatures, which there were, but like that you would have a Goomba that doesn't look like a regular Goomba or whatever, and I think that is also cool. And was weird. I think like the internal standard was to like have like, this is the way a Toad is presented and they must look like this, right? Like
their names are just Toad.
So you can't have like, them wearing different things or what have you, but yeah.
That really kind of like leads into the next game that came out, which was Paper Mario, developed by Intelligent Systems. Most famous, they do Fire Emblem. Is that right? Am I crazy?
Yes, you're not crazy. I can't tell if you're being facetious.
I really was like, is that who it is?
Oh my gosh, I thought you were being sassy.
No.
Because jumping ahead here, that they made Fire Emblem jokes in the Thousand Year Door. Mm-hmm. Which we already could tell from the new trailers that they took that joke out of the remake. Unless they put it somewhere else in the game. But
Intelligent Systems, they do Fire Emblem. They also do the WarioWare games.
Yes.
Well. Got it. Okay, cool. They came out with Paper Mario. And to me, this is like a really good, true successor to Super Mario RPG. Has a lot of the same mechanics, a lot of the same level up systems that are pretty simplified. And just, it's just like a funny kind of story. And what Patrick was saying was really cool about this game is this is the game that I have never finished all the way, but I'm about halfway through right now, and I'm going to finish it this time. The thing I'm noticing is, like taking characters that are well established and then making them like your partners, but then like giving them more personality is how I would put it, So the first character you get is a Goomba that is obsessed with you. So he's obsessed with Mario. So, you kind of have that aesthetic. And then you have like unique Koopa, unique Parrot Koopa. So you just get all these unique variants on our already existing enemy types, which is just really fun. And it kind of fleshes out the world a lot. And you get to see where they live, which is cool as well. Like, which is like a cool RPG mechanic they brought into the Mario world, It's like, oh, hey, go to the towns where these people or where these enemy types like would exist in nature, quote unquote. I don't know. Yeah. But
it characterized them. It made them feel like a fully fleshed out world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we got to also just talk about the paper aspect of this, right? So the Super Mario RPG, I don't know what you would like. It wasn't generic, but it was like just regular ish, right? Like they had an art style that was different or whatever, but it was, David,
I don't agree. I think what was always funny to me about Mario RPG versus Paper Mario is that Mario RPG was a game that looked 3D on the 2D system, And then Paper Mario was like 2D characters on a 3D system.
But
I thought that was
funny.
always kind of the joke, like with the isometric, like 3D rendered characters versus the 2D characters on the N64. That always kind of stood out to me as part of the humor of the Mario RPG series here.
Yes, that, and also that like they established this identity for it. That not that Super Mario RPG didn't have its own identity, but it like this paper, it's part of the title. It's, you know, like you said, it's this 2D. I was it's not striking, but maybe it is striking. I don't know. And so all these games have that, and then they also play with the concept of them being paper, right?
Yeah.
In the stories and in the jokes and in the which also humor is a big part of this. All of these actually,
totally, and like that paper identity carries throughout the series all the way through to Origami King, which we'll get to later. Like just the idea of them being paper is a mechanic in it of itself that serves in multiple facets within the gameplay and the story. But I was going to move us along to the next game that came out, which was technically Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, that came out for Game Boy Advance in 2003. And this is where the timeline gets a little muddy. So around that same time, the Thousand Year Door also came out. So that's where this to me is where the split starts to happen, because they're having a bit of an identity crisis of, okay, Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door is an RPG. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is an RPG. What do we want? Why are we going to have two different RPG Mario series going at the same time?
Well, it just feels like one of them is the handheld series and one of them is the console series, right? It was like they kept the Paper Mario stuff for most part up until Sticker Star on home consoles, right? And they just kind of had something different for that. But I don't know. But I guess what's like the tone or vibe difference between the two franchises?
Well, gameplay wise, I think what Jordan's saying is it becomes more like an RPG. I guess that's where they split to be more like RPGs, right? Or at least like battle mechanic wise.
So leveling mechanic wise and battle mechanic wise, this is kind of where they start to split. Thousand Year Door. So Summer, since this is my blind spot, correct me if I'm wrong, is closer to a traditional RPG. Thousand Year Door is.
You're still choosing like what things you want to level up, like you do in Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG. Whereas in Mario and Luigi, aren't you leveling up like an RPG?
You are leveling up like an RPG, and then you have like automatic stats, and then you can pick which one you want to go.
Okay, so they're the same.
Yeah, exactly. And then once Paper Mario goes from here, it starts to like get a little fuzzy on the RPG mechanics. And then Mario and Luigi becomes like the straight up RPG series.
Got it.
And all those RPG mechanics and leveling up mechanics continue in the Mario and Luigi series throughout the entire series until the death of Alpha Dream. Spoiler alert, rest in peace. I miss Alpha Dream every day.
And then Summer, I know you played a lot of Thousand Year Door when that came out. What was kind of special and unique about that game in comparison to some of the other ones?
Yeah, so it still does a lot of the characterization that we talked about with the original Paper Mario. But what was interesting, so yes, you've got your Goomba first partner and you've got your Koopa second partner, but then almost all of your other partners after that are more original. So you're still getting a lot of that original feeling characters. The humor and the story was actually, and not that we're playing Mario games for story, but at the time in that window, the story really threw a lot of us off. And you get to play as Peach, you get to play as Bowser, you get to see all these weird characterizations and everyone coming together at the end. It was really special. And I'll just say it again. We've been chasing that high ever since. And I am scared that I'm going to have a feeling of coming back to it. We'll see. I'll save it. I love this game. And another Paper Mario hasn't made me feel the way that this game has made me feel.
Yeah, I'm excited to play this one. This is the one that everybody says is the best Paper Mario game.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited that it's coming out, and it's just wild that we got both of these as re-releases within a year.
My sister even asked me, she said, "Are we going to play this game together?" And I was like, "If you really want to, yeah, because that's how we played the original Thousand Year Door, and we live near each other, so we might actually be able to do that."
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. So the next game that came out was Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, which was for the DS system. And so that game is a direct sequel to Super Mario Saga, also a prequel because it plays with like time and you get to be baby Mario and baby Luigi as well as Mario and Luigi. But it just, all the Mario and Luigi series have a very consistent like gameplay aesthetic and tone. So it's either you level up your RPG characters over the course of the game and you get more powerful in whichever ways you choose to level your characters. Next on the list, we had Super Paper Mario that came out for the Wii in 2007. This is what kind of really started to differentiate the Paper Mario series from the Mario and Luigi series. While the Mario and Luigi series kind of maintained like an RPG mechanics throughout the entire franchise, this is where Super Mario RPG started to lean more into like action adventure mechanics. But this game was cool because it had this whole 3D, 2D switching mechanics. So the game is in 2D, like a platformer. And then at certain sections or at certain moments in time, you would have to switch to a 3D view. And so you'd look at a 2D level in a 3D plane, which just like at the time blew my mind. I thought this was such a cool mechanic. But so you would use that as a way to solve puzzles within the game. And I actually really liked this game at the time, but I have not ever revisited it. So I don't really know how it holds up now, but it definitely started to lose some of the RPG mechanics that were the identity of the previous two Paper Mario games. And I think it was because the Mario and Luigi series at this point had already 2 games. And they're like, well, we can't have 2 of the same type of game franchises, even if it is mobile versus home console. But yeah, did any of y'all play this one?
I did, and I had a hard time playing it at the time because I was expecting a game that was going to feel like the Thousand Year Door. This is not the Thousand Year Door. So I'm the opposite of you, Jordan, where I didn't like it back then, revisited it as an adult, understanding what it was, playing it then, and having a better appreciation for it, understanding that the deal with Paper Mario games is that they're all different from each other.
Yeah, this was the top selling game in the franchise whenever it came out. This was, a lot of people had Wiis, and I think that more accessible, it looks like a 2D Mario game, but then it has like extra stuff in it, really did it a lot of favors when it came out. I remember being very excited about this whenever it came out. And this is another one that I didn't get too far into, but I think probably a lot of people that picked this game up had similar experiences too, if they were expecting a regular Mario game. But this was definitely a huge one whenever it came out.
I think one last thing to mention on this game, this was actually the first Mario game on the Wii, which is really weird to wrap my brain around. It came out the same year as Super Mario Galaxy, just months before.
I think that explains what David just said, though. That's probably why I did so many numbers. If it was the first Mario game on the Wii, then it's the game that people thought to buy because regardless, they didn't buy it because it was Paper Mario. They bought it because it was Mario.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it's a very strategic little like drop because they're like, if this comes out after Galaxy, no one's going to give a shit because that game is sidetrack. Sorry. Continuing on.
Not wrong.
Okay. Yeah. So the next game in the series is going to be Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. Dude, this one's a personal favorite of mine.
This is for the DS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the DS. And then they made a 3DS remake in 2018. Bowser's Inside Story is where they really hit a stride in making these games where they knew the mechanics, they knew what they were going for. And then the story itself is just like so funny because the whole premise of the game is there is a disease which just also has one of my favorite names for a fake disease. It's called the blorbs, and it makes people just swell up. Like all these toads are just like Augustus Goop. Wait, no, Violet and Willy Wonka just exploding like as a blueberry. And so the whole premise of the game is, for some reason, you have to travel inside Bowser's body, and every dungeon is a different one of his organs. And like, beautiful concept. And the gameplay is just 10 out of 10. Perfect.
Give
really
a bunch of
hit the-
kids a vor fetish that they never realized that they had.
Or in the expansion, whatever that one's called.
Yeah, exactly. It introduced a lot of Westerners to a lot of Japanese ideas. But no, this I've heard great things about this one. I think it's very silly that you're just inside Bowser for an entire game. I definitely need to play this one. Out of all of these, would you say if I was going to play one Mario and Luigi game, would this be the one to play?
Well, this is not a rankings episode, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Also because they do have the 3DS remake, which the DS graphic style really was already hitting a really good stride, but the 3DS graphic style just elevates it that much more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the 3DS, if you're going to play one game in this entire franchise, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story for the 3DS probably is the way to go for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And then so next up is Paper Mario Sticker Star. I have like such mixed feelings on this game for a lot of reasons, but this is where they really kind of almost completely ditched all RPG mechanics whatsoever.
Right.
It became not an open world, but kind of more like level based. Like you have a overall world, kind of like a Super Mario 3,
Mm-hmm.
where you pick a section of the world you want to go to, and it looks like an RPG but isn't.
Visually, I like it too. Like having played Origami King and then going back and playing that one, I was kind of like, ooh, I can see where a lot of this stuff comes from that I liked about Origami King. But like you said, it's not an RPG. You buy stickers and use them to make attacks, and that's it. And you have this weird sort of palette of stickers. It's kind of a weird mechanic.
It kind of extends the badge mechanics that are in some of the Paper Mario games. As I'm replaying Paper Mario Original, I was like, oh yeah, badges are like a thing, but like they're sticker badges now. And I didn't necessarily like hate the idea because it's kind of like almost like a trading card style system where you're just trying to figure it out.
It's like card building. Mm-hmm.
For as an adult, it was like not deep enough for me to care. I don't know, the whatever. Summer, did you play this one?
Barely. And again, it's one that I just kind of realized, and I think it was more like at the time for me, it wasn't for me. We can get more into this later. I think I might want to go back and play some of these at some point, acknowledging that all of the Paper Mario games are different games. They're not. I think that's actually the thread between them all, is that they are different.
I'm not a huge fan of this game. I don't think it's a terrible game, but it just wasn't what I wanted out of that experience, is how I would put it.
Yeah,
but
it was just so different from what people had come to expect at that point.
Yeah, it almost felt more like almost Zelda-esque, like old school Zelda-esque, because it is like action adventure-y. So anyway, moving right along, the next game we got was for 3DS, and that was the Mario and Luigi Dream Team game in 2013. As Summer was saying about the 1,000-Year Door being the high that you're chasing, once I played Bowser's Inside Story, I'm like, I'm chasing this high. And Dream Team does come pretty close, but it's not quite there. Like the graphical improvements are pretty cool, which is what they translated into the Bowser's Inside Story remake.
Right.
But this game, the premise of the game is there's like a special bed that when you fall asleep on it, there's like a portal into the dream world, and Luigi loves to take naps. Luigi be napping, and he got in the bed and he opens the portal to the dream world. Some bad things happen, but through the course of the game, you have to go into his dreams. Those are the dungeons are in his dreams. And this one does use some interesting mechanics in regards to the touchscreen of the 3DS, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, this one's great. I do recommend this game. I really had a good time playing it. But did any of y'all play this one?
No, but just watching the trailer, visually, it's all over the place. Maybe that's just what they used for the trailer, but there's a lot of wild stuff happening on that.
Dare I say, what year did this game come out?
2013.
2013. Okay, so it came out 2 years before Fire Emblem Fates, and I think there was what I would maybe call a petting mechanic in this game, where Luigi on the bottom screen, you're rubbing his face to wake him up. There was a lot of that in Fates. I'm just saying, I think this game did it first. It's Intelligent Systems.
Well, that one's Alpha Dream, right?
Oh, just kidding. You're right. It is Alpha Dream.
It's an Alpha Dream game.
They were talking.
They were talking.
Yeah, they were probably talking. They're all talking. I don't know. This is the point in the list where I'm like,
What is going on?
oh, that's a game? You know what I mean? like, look, I just kind of understand. It's like Alpha Dream made so many of these fucking things. Like, I don't think I knew that Dream Team and Paper Jam existed.
Oh, you're the reason Alpha Dream died.
Yeah, I think like I mean, I definitely knew about the first three, but it's like, you know, even that, and even like Sticker Star and Color Splash, and it's like a lot of these start really like when you haven't really played any of them, they all kind of start to blend together in your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're doing this episode so I can like separate them a little bit and understand them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point too, I'd noticed that they've been back and forth, like it's been alternating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting, right? Like that they were pacing the releases or developing like to have them alternate, but that's about to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was for the reason of like, that's another reason why they like changed the styles between both. But yeah, the next game that came out in the series is Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. And this is the one I have admittedly not played. So this came out in 2015 and I played Sticker Star in probably 2013, maybe a year after it came out. And it just left such a like bad taste in my mouth that I was like, dude, I don't even want to touch a Paper Mario game. Like, I don't even want to mess with it. But this one was also developed by Alpha Dream, but it is a crossover game. So it is a crossover between Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario, just to make everything more confusing for everybody who tries to follow this franchise. So, I mean, this game does look pretty good. I've heard this is more RPG heavy than the Paper Mario series is by this point, which is why I'm like more inclined to try it out. Because I do love the Paper Mario aesthetic, but I want more RPG mechanics out of my games. So I have been like going through a Mario and Luigi replay through, and I'm on Partners in Time right now. So I think I'm going to ramp up after this. But anyway, so next in the RPG saga of Mario, we got Paper Mario Color Splash. This is another one I did not play. This is a blind spot. I did not own a Wii U. So David, did you play this one?
No.
Resident Wii U owner.
First of all, I mean, clearly I haven't played a bunch of these. Also, like, even when this game came out, everybody was like, this game is trash. Right.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty universally panned. I think fans hated it. Critics didn't like it. It was, it completely jumped the shark as far as any sort of semblance of what Paper Mario originally was. And like I said earlier, I think at this point, people were really upset that the game just had no personality to it.
Yes.
It seemed very safe and very samey. So no, I avoided this one whenever it came out.
Yeah. Last year, my sister and we pulled out her Wii U and we just tried playing a bunch of games to try to see if any of them were good. And this was one of them. I think I was in it for about 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. I think visually this game is pretty stunning. I think
it's a shame.
I think Origami King owes a lot of its aesthetic to this game.
Sure.
And then they just made a better game.
Totally. And so that brings us to the next game, which is the Origami King. That is the next one. It's Paper Mario, the Origami King. So we're back on the Paper Mario franchise. At this point, by the time this game releases, I think Alpha Dream might be dead. I think Alpha Dream closed in 2019. Mm-hmm. And the last game they released was going to be, well, I was going to say it was Mario and Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. Great title, not confusing to say at all. But they actually released a couple games after that. But that was like the last really big game I remember. They put that out on 3DS and they just didn't make it. But Origami King came out for the Switch in 2020. It is a, quote, role-playing game, end quote. I still think it takes a little bit more from the action adventure.
You can tell with the names of these, with like Sticker Star and Color Splash, they've been like looking for things that tie in with paper. And then somebody was like, origami. So yeah, there's like an evil origami person who's folding all the Paper Mario characters. And I think what worked for me about this was, number one, that it was kind of my entry point to this. So I didn't have a lot of the baggage, but I obviously the battle system is a problem. And I think that's a problem they were having with a lot of the ones leading up to this. But where it shines is the non-battles, right? Like the gameplay was really varied, and that the environments were varied, and it felt like a journey and lots of different things you could do. And then if you wanted to, you could just collect coins and kind of cheese the battles, which I didn't do on my first playthrough, but I definitely did when my son wanted to play it again. Like I will pay those toads to line up those things. I think it's a really cool game. Aside from that battle, like I think the battle mechanic is fine. It just gets really tedious. And when you see it and it works, it's kind of cool. But a lot of times you're just like, my brain does not have the space for this. And I kind of want to just keep playing the game. I don't want this,
I kind of agree. I mean, I really liked the battle mechanic, and I liked the kind of rings that you spin. It was very puzzle gamey. And I actually really like that a lot. But I do agree that the best part of the game was the exploration, was roaming around in the worlds, was just the vibes and the colors, and like I thought this game graphically was really, really nice looking, and I really enjoyed playing it. And it's also, a lot of people are like, yeah, that's one of the worst Paper Mario games. I'm like, shit, man, I guess I do need to play more of this series, because I really liked this game a lot. I thought it was pretty great. So that's one of the main reasons I'm really excited to play one that's much more RPG focused when Thousand Year Door comes out. But yeah, I thought this was a really fun game when it came out. Some of it probably had to do with the fact that we do a Nintendo podcast when this game came out, so finally jumping into this series and actually having a reason to complete it. But yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I will say I agree that the battle mechanic was good when it worked. I think for me in particular, the bosses were the most interesting part. But then when I eventually had to fight a lot of like lower level enemies, I just got really tired of the battle mechanic, especially because there's no reward other than coins. And it's like, I don't have any RPG mechanics to level me up to make me want to fight the lower level enemies and grind that. So there's no reward. So I ended up trying to just avoid them until I got to the boss.
Right. But the main thing you want coins for is for the battles.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if I don't want to do the battles, then I don't need more coins. Yeah.
It just, the gameplay loop didn't quite work, but I agree with everything y'all said. The exploration is great. The art style is fantastic. All that stuff. That pretty much takes us through the RPG series is overall.
Right, there's multiple series.
It's such a weird and convoluted timeline, but I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about the offshoots that we got here?
Totally, yeah, because these I'm honestly a little more familiar with. I know you have on here the Camelot games, the Mario Sports RPGs. So we had Mario Golf and Mario Tennis for the Game Boy Color. And then you also had Mario Golf Advance Tour and Mario Tennis Power Tour for the Game Boy Advance. The first one that I really got into on these was Mario Tennis Power Tour. And this might be my favorite Game Boy Advance game. I really, really love this game. I'm just a big fan of tennis in general. Can't wait for that Zendaya tennis movie that's coming out. That one looks really fun. But no, I just love tennis, and I love the idea of an RPG that uses tennis matches as battles, right? And so I think that this game was just so satisfying to play because the tennis mechanics were really good, and it just had this full story and really interesting characters. Like, you play as a character that isn't Mario. You're like a human that lives within this world with Mario characters and human characters in it. And the Mario characters are they're like kind of mythical. It's like, oh, maybe someday I'll get to play against Mario or whatever, right? Like, that's you're kind of working up to play against. And so you kind of grind your way up through like the other people in this tennis academy in order to get there. And so I really loved that aspect of that game, and I replay this one often. And then the Game Boy Color version is also good. It came out before, but yeah, that one's also spectacular. Just totally different story, totally different, similar gameplay, obviously, but made by the same developers. Did any of you guys play the golf games, Advance Tour or Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color?
I have played all of these games. I love these games, man. I mean, so the way that you feel about tennis games, I feel about golf games. I don't really give a shit about realistic physics golf games, and I don't really give a shit about golf. But so for some reason, once I played Mario Golf Advance Tour, I was like, I'm all in. This is so much fun. Like using golf as the battles, like they use tennis as the battles, and leveling up, my slice and my power and how far I can hit the ball. And it really worked for me, and this has kind of spawned other RPG games. Like Golf Story is basically just a Mario Golf extension, I would say, a spiritual successor, if you will, because I don't know if Nintendo will ever quite make something like this again, even if it is through Camelot Software Planning. But yeah, man, these games are fantastic. I want more sports RPGs just in general. Like this, like kind of arcadey sports RPGs. I feel like a lot of sports games now have certain RPG mechanics within them, but they're more realistic physics games, and that doesn't really appeal to me.
And more management sim type.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, man, these are great, fantastic games.
Yeah, don't sleep on them. We got them on the at least the Game Boy Color on NSO now, which is really great. So definitely check those out. And then you also have on this list here the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle series. We got Kingdom Battle, which was the first one in 2017 for the Switch, and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which came out a couple of years ago on the Switch. I did play the first one of this, and I liked it quite a bit. These are strategy games, so like our tactics games, RPGs. That's along, like where exactly does that fit in the genre? But I would say that this counts. And I think both of these games are really good. And I think it might be cool to see Ubisoft Milan, who did these games, maybe work on Mario RPGs outside of tactics. Because I think they showed a really great understanding of what makes a isometric Mario game like so exciting and fun, right? Like, what did you guys think about these games?
I played the first one and I loved it. I'm notoriously not good at this kind of a game, and I'm really bad at strategy games. I brute force them. I'm a really aggressive player of video games. I like fast-paced games, and so it worked for me though. I like it. It worked. So yeah, when I play Fire Emblem, I just kind of fucking gun through them. Like I don't strategize. But I really loved it. I think it was funny and fun, and it worked for me. I never played the second one. I don't think a lot of people did. And I think it's a bit of a bummer, but I know some people did and said it was good. So just came out at a bad time, right? Is kind of I recall. But
it's also just hard to support Ubisoft.
Yeah,
it's kind of true.
They're like such a shitty company. But I mean, like Davide Soliani, like the creator of these games, like is seriously, obviously so passionate about it. And out of all of Ubisoft's like recent oeuvre, like this is one of the games that I know has like the best or maybe the least like predatory practices, And so it's kind of sad to see that the second one didn't do as well as the first, but I don't think anybody expected that first game to do as well as it did. So
that was a timing issue too, right? Like when it came out, there weren't as many games. Well, we should close this conversation out. And I think what would be really interesting is hear quickly what everybody thinks about the future. Because I know, what we do know is that Alpha Dream is closed and that the 1,000-Year Door is getting a remake. So what does that mean? Does that mean Mario and Luigi is dead and Paper Mario will continue? Or do you think there's any chance of any other kind of Mario RPGs coming back?
I'll go first because I am just still mourning the loss of Mario and Luigi, and I think it's dead. I think, it's been since we've got an original game, almost a decade, 9 years. And then since we've gotten a game in general, it's been 6 years. I really think if they were going to move this franchise forward, we would have gotten at least one game by now. My hope for the future is that there is some sort of baton pass to a third-party company, something like a Mercury Steam, but for Mario RPGs. Someone that understands the genre and knows what fans want from the writing, like the comedy writing. I think that's like one thing we kind of talked about. All these games have like a comedy aspect to them as well. So I think there is some third-party developer out there that Nintendo will find, since they're starting to work with more third-party people, that will understand a Mario RPG. I don't know what that looks like, but that is my hope for the future. I don't see Paper Mario going back more traditional at this point. Even with the Thousand Year Door remake, I don't see them taking back the RPG franchise into that. Maybe if Thousand Year Door is successful enough, they might. But I think at this point, there's probably already another Paper Mario game that exists that we haven't seen yet. And I would venture a guess that it's not an RPG. That's my 2 cents.
I don't agree. I think that we will be seeing a lot more standard RPG stuff. I think it can't be a coincidence that in the last year we've gotten a remake of the 2 most RPG-ish of all the games, or at least the fundamental ones. You know what I mean? Like it is going back to the most beloved. I feel like after years and years and years of people complaining about the Paper Mario franchise, like the core fans of the Paper Mario franchise have been pissed, and they have been like, we don't like these games. They're like not fun, and they're going away from what we like. And then I feel like they're finally like, okay, we hear you. And not only that, they're like sending out surveys and shit, like asking what people like about the franchise. And those are going out to people that they know buy these games. Right. And so, Arlo did a great video on this recently, and I end up deferring to him for a lot of Paper Mario stuff because I know he's a super fan. Not that I shouldn't also listen to you, Jordan, because obviously you're a super fan as well. They all come in all different shapes and colors. Some of them are monsters and some of them are humans. But I just feel like this trend is like it's a little too like sus to ignore. It's like clearly something is going on where they're like, you where you are, right, Jordan, is that like the sales of this will determine a lot of what's going on. But I wouldn't be surprised especially if the Mario and Luigi series is dead, people are going to need that RPG fix somewhere, right? So bringing that into maybe one franchise, not having the split across 2 and making it more story and RPG focused, I feel like that's the direction that they're going to go. But
the way I maybe interpreted the 2 remakes is okay, we remade these ones you really like. Here's your RPG games. You're never getting one again. I could see it being, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and that also makes sense. But like my gut reaction originally when the Thousand Year Door was getting remade was, oh, we're never getting another Paper Mario like the Thousand Year Door. They're just giving it to us again so they can continue to make other different Paper Mario games. Is how I interpreted it.
It honestly could go either way.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I obviously want it to be what you're saying, like, because I'm also a fan of that more style of game.
Time will tell, I guess. We don't know. But yeah, I think that we got to close it out. So, if you're out there listening and you've got any thoughts about, your favorites of these or anything we glossed over or what you think is going to happen with the Paper Mario or Mario RPG games, we'd love to hear from you. And with that, we will take a short break and talk about the games we've been playing recently. All right, well, of course I've played Splatoon 3, gang. I really do need to stop playing Splatoon. It's kind of a problem. But I did fire up a new game. I think I showed this off last week, and my friend Brian loaned it to me. So I did start playing. I didn't get very far. Pac-Man World Repack, which is the... I don't know if it's a full-on remake or if it's... is it a remake? You're nodding your head?
It's a remake of the PS1 game.
Of the PS1 game. Really weird because I started playing it and then I took my kid to his dentist appointment and they have PlayStations in their lobby, like PS1s, and that game was up on it. So I got to actually see the original game within the same day of having fired it up. So I'm not too far into it. It's got the old, early 3D platformer kind of good and bad. I'm gonna stick with it. I think I decided after a little bit into it just to see it through at least a little bit more. The cutscenes are kind of bad. Visually they're okay. It's just the voices and stuff are a little annoying to me, but that's a minor complaint. I'll report back as I get deeper into that one.
Yeah, that's a fun game. It's got that kind of like early PS1 sort of 2D, but it has to be 3D thing. Like there are a lot of games did that back then, and it's I don't know. The remake is wonderful and it feels good, but it definitely has that nostalgic vibe, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there are definitely times like when I first was like, they kind of like show the level or they show something and I'm like, ooh, and then you go in and you're like, oh, there's walls everywhere. Okay. This is a corridor. Yeah.
It's a cool game. Simply time. I'll go next. I don't have a ton that I've played this week, gang. In fact, I've been mostly reading books and watching movies and TV shows, which, you know what? Good for me, right? Obviously, I'm always playing some Picross. I'm in Picross S+. I've moved on to the Picross E4 game. I'm kind of jumping around because the music is the same between 1, 2, and 3. So I'm trying to play other games and then go back to the music in the first one. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. But anyway, E4 is great. It's got a yellow background. And then I do want to start playing the Blade Runner game. I bought that so long ago for the Switch. They like re-released it at Nighttime Studios. And after like watching Blade Runner 2049 the other day, I really want to get back into that. But I know it had a lot of like bugs, but hopefully they've patched out a bunch of those. And then otherwise, other than that, I did one of my regrets when I got a Switch is I sold a bunch of Wii U games that I had that like had Switch versions.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the games that I sold back in the day was Splatoon 1. Because I was like, Splatoon 2 is basically just Splatoon 1, where it really was a very different game. And so I always regretted not getting it. But I caved and I bought a copy of Splatoon again for the Wii U. You're saying, David, the servers are down. Why would you buy Splatoon, the original Splatoon, for the Wii U now? And you know what? I don't have a great answer for that. But I did buy it. And actually, Pretendo... you don't have to hack your Wii U. I'm still planning on hacking my Wii U, but they made a non-hack version of Pretendo that allows you to access the Pretendo servers without having to do that. So I saw some people doing that and people are playing Splatoon 1 on there. And so I was like, God damn it, I'm going to buy Splatoon 1 because I really loved this game when it came out. I played the shit out of it on the Wii U. I think it was like the Wii U's killer app. And like, you know, I just have a lot of nostalgia for it. So I'm looking forward to eventually hacking my system, throwing Splatoon 1 on there and playing this game again. I'm just glad to just have it so I can put it on my shelf because I've always been like, man, why did I sell that fucking game? I like that thing. But that's it. What about y'all?
I'll go next. I'm in the exact same boat I was last week. I am still playing Balatro. I have made my way through the standard decks and now working my way through the unlocked decks. The way I'm playing the game is I'm trying to get a win with every deck. And then I'm just going to kind of put it aside and wait for updates to go. Because once you beat it with a deck, there's then challenge levels above that. So, but I want to say I've beat it with 8 or 9 decks, so which means I've got 8 or 9 wins. Once I get one win, I move on to the next deck. So I am starting to really understand the mechanics and how to like work through a run, even if you're not getting the best stuff. And also just know when to just be like, this run's fucked. Go on to the next one. It's cool. Like that's the whole point of the game is like, don't waste 30 minutes on this run when you know 5 minutes in this build's not going to work. Let it fail. Keep going. So I've really turned a corner. I'm back on the Balatro train. Shit, I'm in. I'm all in. And then the other game I've been playing is Paper Mario in preparation for Thousand Year Door. This is a game I had never finished all the way through. I am now at the point where I stopped pretty much every other playthrough, which is, I think, in chapter 3. So I'm really enjoying this game. I'm actually really appreciating this one a lot more, having just played Super Mario RPG and seeing like the direct through line and understanding like, okay, this is a like direct step up from Super Mario RPG. And I'm really excited to see the Thousand Year Door because there can't be so much hype that this game's got to be fire. So I'm really excited to play that when it comes out. So I'm just trying to like build up my own hype. But Summer, what about you? What have you been playing?
Yeah, I am back to Fortnite again, mostly because of the Avatar event that's currently happening. Because you're going to get Appa as a mount if you clear all of the rewards. So I obviously want that. But you can like be the avatar if you collect all of the different bending when you're playing. And I've always been a fan of the special melee like other than the guns, I really appreciate like all of the melee weapons, and the bending is like kind of somewhere in between the two. So figuring out how to use them, I always appreciate that. And then you get experience for destroying the cabbage carts, so that's also fun. And just trying to take advantage of my Game Pass app. Still playing through Persona 3 Reload. That it was funny. I was thinking about it. I was holding on to this thought when we were talking about like binging TV and how we need to bring back like getting home and watching an episode of something. It was a blast from the past. This game originally came out in I think 2006 or 2007, and it took place in 2009. And going on like your social links with your friends, and they would end the conversation with something like, "Oh, look at the time! I got to get home and catch my show. My show is on." I'm like, no one says that anymore. So I was like, this whole time, I'm like, yes, Persona. Thinking about Persona.
Save me, Persona 3. Persona 3, save me.
Yeah, because they're talking about getting home and watching their show, and it's like, wow, that we don't do that anymore. I'd like to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, very nice. That is going to do it for our episode on the various Mario RPG series and games. Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. Thanks to all of our patrons over on Patreon. And if you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online as PDYX.
You can find me at Weebwitched.
You can find me at Boardan.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We got a website, switchheads.com, and then we've got our Patreon, our Discord, and our Facebook group. We'll have links to all three of those in the description of this episode. Please join us over there on the Discord. We'd love to have you. What a wonderful group of youngsters we got over there. I don't know why I said that. What a wonderful group of people we got over there that we hang out with all the time. They're our friends. We love them. So be our friend. We love you too, probably. That's going to do it for this episode. What a wonderful time. I guess I got some games to play, so I'll be looking forward to doing some of those. We're going to be back next week with another fantastic banger of an episode, so make sure you tune in. But other than that, gang, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Why don't you go play... What are these games called? Mario and Luigi Paper Jam for the Nintendo 3DS family of systems, released 2015. But other than that, we love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.